Our last speaker today is also a distinguished and prominent Israeli journalist and editor. It's Ben Dror-Yamini. He works at the daily newspaper Maariv. He's also a senior fellow at our Center for International Communication. He studied law and history at Tel Aviv University and worked several years as lawyer. Didn't like it. Since 2003, he has been the editor of the op-ed section in Maariv and has a column published in the weekend edition. He also has a blog on Maariv's online edition, NRG. Since the beginning of the second Intifada, Mr. Yamini is writing extensively on what he calls the industry of lies, directed against Israel by Palestinians and the radical left in Israel and abroad. His topic is the media's role in the industry of lies. Mr. Yamini, please.
Thank you, Professor Golboa. I have to confess, I have a problem. I have a problem because, generally speaking, when I am participating this kind of events, this kind of panels, I demand actually, to be the last speaker. And why do I ask to be the last speaker? Not this time, by the way. Because I'm dealing with the industry of lies, and many participants are telling all the very known stories about Israel, which is the state that is committing genocide, Israel that committed the ethnic cleansing, Israel that produced the refugees problem, Israel that is violating so many human rights, the big violator of the world. Here and now I have a problem. Here and now I have a problem because after these three speakers, I have nothing to refute. I have nothing to correct. I mean, they were great. Actually, in a way, they took my job. So I can go and sit. So, and the second problem that I have to confess, I have a problem with my teeth. I'm on my way to my dentist. So I hope I will make it. Anyway, about journalists. Journalists are the people who know almost nothing about almost everything. Not like professors, and here we are in a community of journalists and professors who know almost everything about almost nothing. So to solve my own problem, my personal problem, I just got married with a professor. So I'm done. When we are talking about the industry of lies, we have to admit, not everything that is written about Israel is a lie. And sometimes it's not so easy to distinguish between the demonization campaign and a very legitimate criticism, which exists. And whenever we are claiming, and we are claiming, against the lies that are expressed against Israel, everybody in the media is saying something like, look, you are violating human rights, you have occupation, we have the Goldstone report. And it's not easy. Believe me, sometimes it's not easy because people do not like to see the big picture. And many times, we are not talking about lies, we are talking about people that it's so much easier. I mean, because Israel, as just was mentioned here, the only one conflict with an access to every event is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In Iraq, they were embedded, as my colleague said, not in Israel. In Israel, everybody, just as a good friend told me, look, it's the best job to be a foreign journalist. Why is it the best job? Because I can cover a kind of demonstration somewhere in Ramallah, and 10 minutes later, I can be in the best restaurant. Generally speaking, we are talking about American colony, of course, to those of you who know. And everybody thinks that I am in the very middle of the battlefield, which I'm not, as we all know. The point is that I do not have that kind of conditions when I'm going to Darfur. I don't have a good restaurant. I don't have a good hotel. So where should I go? Where should we all go, journalists? So Israel is the preferred country, and Israel is, according to the data, the third place in the world with journalists, not proportionals, not in proportions, absolutely. So the coverage is huge. And the main point is, of course, when I'm talking about the industry of lies, is to prove that we are talking about lies. I'll give you an example, the first one from the last year. The Guardian and Al Jazeera, they joined powers, as we all know, at the beginning of the year, and they published the Palestinian papers. The biggest headline that we all remember is that the Palestinians gave up the right of return. They are willing to accept only 10,000 refugees as they will receive the right of return, and this is it. And to quote the headline of The Guardian, Palestinians agreed only 10,000 refugees could return to Israel. Well, the point I was, to tell you the truth, as an Israeli, as a journalist, as a peace activist in a way, because I do support any kind of peace. I'm not a right-winger. I was glad, and I even published an article of joy, because I was really glad. Look, we have a partner. If they give up the right of return, we have a partner. The point is that I was the bad journalist, the lazy journalist. Because later on, when I had the time, I looked at the documents. I went again to the Guardian website. They have a link to the document where the Palestinians accept the only 10,000 refugees. And I have news for you, and I invite you all to do it. In the document, there is not the smallest hint to that kind of concession, just nothing. So I was sure that maybe I was wrong, and maybe the link was, in a way, the wrong one. So I of course, contacted Ian Black, quite a known journalist from The Guardian, the Middle East editor of The Guardian. And he is an expert to the Middle East. I asked him, and we know each other, where is the story about the 10,000? Where is the story about the big concession? Of course, it's not the only one concession. They accepted the idea of a Jewish state, the same. You go to the document and you don't find anything of that kind. And I asked him, where is it coming from? The same way that you all received the answer from Ian Black, I did. He never answered. He just never answered. Well, I'm not the only one who exposed the big deception. Later on, it was exposed by some bloggers. By the way, it's very interesting. Mainly bloggers, not journalists. not journalists. The same is going with so many other subjects. For example, let's go to the Arab Spring, which is taking place right now. We will skip it all because it's much less important right now. Look, we are all enthusiastic about the Arab Spring. Generally speaking, they don't speak about Israel, which is good, a good sign. But The Economist, a leading newspaper, look what he presented. Everything is okay. Peace is coming. Democracy is coming. But there is one problem. Israel is smashing everything. Israel is crashing everything. Just unbelievable. But the highlight, let me call it like that, the highlight the highlight of the last 3 years is, of course, human rights violations. No, we don't have time to go to all of that. Okay, human rights. And the highlight of human rights is, of course, the Goldstone report. Now, the big question after the Goldstone report was, I mean, how comes that you complain against Israel when we all know, and we all know, that many other countries are killing civilians in conflicts? I mean, it's happening not intentionally. And Goldstone was asked 2 times the very same question. Let's hear it. I hope it's going to work. Why we don't hear? Don't worry, I have the quotes. Anyway, I'll give you the story. We don't really need it. I mean, believe me that I know what I'm talking about. If we don't hear, we don't hear. He was asked 2 times the same question about other conflicts. The first time, he was asked by Yonit Levy from Channel 2 in Israel. The second time, he was asked by Bill Moyers from the PBS. The very same question. And let me show you what did he answer, because I expected that kind of problems. So, Goldstone A answered to Yonit Levy about the story of proportions and about the US Army conducting the same kind of war in Iraq. I have not investigated the US Army. You know what? Fair enough. Fair enough. He did not investigate, which is true. But we have Goldstone B, 3 weeks later, answering Bill Moyers from the PBS. The US Army have gone to extremes to protect innocent civilians, which is quite nice. In 3 weeks, he conducted an investigation. Now, the point is that he did not check, but I did. That's what I'm doing, by the way. I'm not talking so much about the media. What I'm conducting is this kind of comparative research about the lies against Israel. Now, when we compare the same kind of battles, what we find out is that Sri Lanka, that took place something like half a year later, after the cast lead operation. I mentioned here 10,000 people, civilians that were killed. I'm wrong. It's something like between 20 to 30,000 people, civilians, that were killed. Now, I did not include Chechnya, which is the same kind of conflict. Why Chechnya is the same kind? Because we are talking about the same kind of conflict, the same kind of population, the same kind of semi-military kind of battle. I did not include Chechnya because we did not have, I mean, in my table, I did not have enough room to include Chechnya because we are talking about so many thousand people, about more than 200,000 people that were killed. 2 battles in the middle of the 90s, at the end of the 90s, and we are talking about huge numbers. Now, I took Sri Lanka, that fought the Tamil tigers. I took Fallujah. I excluded Fallujah. Why I excluded Fallujah? Because it's the same kind of battle like what happened in Gaza. A smaller population, by the way. Citizens were evacuated. And look at the proportions. We are talking about 6,000 civilians, and we are talking about 800 combatants. And then we go to Pakistan with the Swat Wali. Again, Taliban is taking over on a district. And look at the proportion. And then we go to Belgrade and NATO. Kosovo was mentioned here. They did not bomb, not Rome and not Paris. They did not threaten to exterminate any European state, and yet NATO decided to bomb them, and look at the results. And then we go to cast lead operation, and look at the proportions. And it's not my proportions. It was the interior minister of the Hamas that admitted some months ago that 700 Hamas combatants were killed. It's not what HRW, Human Rights Watch, claimed. It's not what B'Tselem claimed. But actually he confirmed exactly what Avi Bnayahu, the spokesman of the Israeli army, claimed. So here we have the proportions. So the industry of lies is prevailing. We have a problem. I can go to every aspect, refugees if you want. I mean, you can repeatedly read Robert Fisk claiming that the main problem of Gaza is refugees, the ethnic cleansing that Israel committed in 48. Lie. It's a lie not because we don't have refugees that were produced because of what happened in 48. It's a lie because when we check the global picture, we find out that we are talking about 52 million people that were forced out of their homes, of their homelands, in order to establish new nation states. And when you exclude only the Palestinians, you are lying. Nobody is a refugee anymore. The only one group that is perpetuated as refugees is the Palestinian group. This is the problem, and not what Israel conducted in 48. So it's again and again ethnic cleansing, genocide. If you go to Google, I have to finish, I know. If you go to Google and put ethnic cleansing, you will find much more results about Israel and the Nakba and the Palestinians than about any other conflict in the world. If you go to Google and put Israel genocide, Palestinians, you will get more than 7 million results. But if you go to Google and put Darfur, Sudan, genocide, you will find much less results. Israel never conducted a genocide, but yet the lie is prevailing. So we are dealing with an industry of lies. I'm not a PR expert. I do not know, and it's going to be the next panel, I guess, how to refute it, how to deal with it. My job as a journalist, as a researcher, is to expose the lies, to publish the real proportions. This is my last sentence. Last sentence. It was mentioned, the Israeli achievements and so on. The point is that I created a new index, which can be called Contribution to Humanity per Capita. Let me tell you, according to all the very objective parameters, scientific publications, agriculture, water desalination, and so on and so on, Israel is the leading state on earth in contribution to humanity, not to itself. And yet, when you go to the BBC polls that are conducted every year, you find out, I don't have the time to present it, you find out that Israel is the leading state in contribution to violence in the world. What a huge gap between the image of Israel and the reality about Israel. Thank you so much for listening.